Bong Joo-hyuk is a 25-year-old man working 3 part-time jobs, drowning in debt, and eating ramen alone in a 180-square-foot rooftop room, and tonight, the universe is about to hand him the most dangerous gift imaginable. Our guy walks through a grimy alley where a couple of loafers on a ledge are literally spitting on people below and complaining when the spit misses. That's the neighborhood, that's the vibe. Joo-hyuk doesn't engage, doesn't look up, just keeps moving until he's back in his tiny box of an apartment, staring down another dinner of instant noodles. 3 jobs, 25 years old, and still, the debt eats every paycheck before he can save a single one. While he stirs his ramen in silence, Joo-hyuk arrives at the conclusion he's been circling for a while now. He has no talent, no prospects, and nothing going for him except a body that still works. In his own words, he's a pathetic loser. And then a blue holographic message appears right in front of his face and tells him he's awakened. Joo-hyuk nearly chokes on his noodles. He jerks back, stares at the floating screen like it might bite him, and slowly, very slowly processes what just happened. In this world, awakening is rarer than winning the lottery. It can change a person's entire life overnight. But here's the catch that makes every awakening a coin flip between fortune and a funeral. The power is tied to the tower, and the tower kills people. Monsters, freezing cold, extreme heat, poison. The tower has a menu of ways to end you, and it's not picky about which one it uses. That danger profile fits Joo-hyuk about as well as a shark suit fits a goldfish. This man has spent his life dodging confrontation. He pretends to be on the phone to avoid eye contact with rough guys in alleys. He takes longer routes just to skip walking under construction sites. He knows he's a coward, he lives like one. So when the awakening notification floats in front of him, part of his brain genuinely wonders if exhaustion is making him hallucinate. But he tests it anyway. He pulls up his status window and the system confirms everything. His trait is summon. The broader explanation follows. Awakened people receive traits ranging from swordsmanship to healing to summoning. And summoning itself can mean spirits, familiars, golems, or demonic beasts. Joo-hyuk immediately starts wondering what kind of summoner he's supposed to be. So he tries it. Throws out a big, forceful summoning command like he's casting a spell I4NA drama, and nothing happens. Because player abilities only work inside the tower. Outside, you're basically a regular person. Joo-hyuk feels like an idiot for forgetting a rule he should have known. But then he checks the window again, triggers a random summon skill, and his eye flares purple. Energy explodes around his apartment door. Something is materializing in midair, and it should not be working. Not here, not outside the tower. A glowing armored figure lands in his cramped apartment. Joo-hyuk stares. The summon worked where it wasn't supposed to, and the thing that breaks his brain even harder than the impossible activation? The summoned being greets him like a person. Not a spirit, not a golem, a human. Joo-hyuk has somehow summoned an actual human being outside the tower. The red-haired young man immediately sniffs the air, spots the ramen, and begs for a bite. Joo-hyuk hesitates but lets him have some. The guy slurps down the noodles with pure joy, then starts coughing and wheezing like the mildest spice on earth is burning his soul. Joo-hyuk can only watch in baffled resignation. His impossible human summon is also a shameless freeloader who can't handle flavor. Joo-hyuk checks the status window again. The system explains that summons are ranked from rare to legendary and that summoners can communicate freely with them at all times. Joo-hyuk processes this like a gotcha mechanic because that's the closest thing his brain has. Then, 3 governing principles appear. First, protect the summoner's life. Second, obey the summoner's orders. Third, if protection and obedience ever conflict, protection wins. Those rules settle something in Joo-hyuk's mind. Absolute obedience. That sounds useful even if he still has no idea who he just pulled. The system identifies his summon. Name, John Kosak. Rank, super rare assassin from the Cruel Assassins Guild. Described as both a valuable asset and a severe headache. The stats poor in 99% mission success rate, killed a 5th circle warlock and still met his downfall in the end. As the data floods Joo-hyuk's mind, his eye flares again, and the raw information turns into something much worse. Memories. Joo-hyuk falls through a void and lands inside Kosak's past. A dark figure rushes at him. Twin blades flash, bodies drop. And then comes the detail that makes Joo-hyuk's stomach turn. John Kosak is carefully tying red ribbons around severed heads. He's smiling while he does it. Not a forced grin. A satisfied, almost affectionate smile. Like he's wrapping birthday presents. Joo-hyuk can only stare in horror and wonder if the man is completely insane. The memory continues. A mansion under moonlight. A target asleep in bed. That target turns out to be the Empire's strongest swordmaster. The clash is sudden and violent, and Joo-hyuk understands this is Kosak's final memory, the one failure that ended him. The vision breaks when the real Kosak snaps him back to the present, demanding to know what he was thinking about. Joo-hyuk falls backward. Kosak apologizes and asks for orders. That deference matters. Joo-hyuk reminds himself of the 3 principles and uses them like a seatbelt. If the summon is bound to obey absolutely, then he doesn't need to be afraid. He tests it with chores first. Wash the pot, clean the table. Kosak obeys immediately, cheerfully, without a single complaint. Joo-hyuk watches, gains confidence, and then pushes the limit with the most awkward test he can think of. He orders John Cusack to bark like a dog. Cusack barks without hesitation. The absurdity startles Joo Hyuk, makes him briefly wonder if he crossed a line with a man who ties ribbons on severed heads, and then convinces him all over again that the obedience is real. That comfort lasts about 30 seconds. Loud pounding hits the apartment door. The fear is instant. Joo Hyuk freezes and remembers he forgot to pay the interest on his loan. The debt that's been crushing him has finally sent someone to collect. And the backstory explains why. Joo Hyuk borrowed 10 million won from a loan shark because banks wouldn't touch him, and he needed the money for his father's surgery and his younger brother's tuition. He knows it was a terrible decision. He also knows he'd make the same choice again. The enforcer forces his way in, grabs Joo Hyuk by the neck and mocks him. Then the cruelty sharpens. If the debt gets too heavy, the man suggests Joo Hyuk could always sell a kidney. And when that isn't enough, they start discussing his younger brother as another potential source of money. Joo Hyuk stays silent, forces a smile, and lets the men leave after they remind him he could disappear without a trace if he doesn't pay. While this is happening, John Cusack is hiding in the bathroom because Joo Hyuk shoved him there the instant he sensed violence coming. And for good reason. When the enforcer walked in, Cusack's mind flashed to a memory of standing ready to behead the Empire's strongest swordmaster the second his summoner gave the word. That's exactly the disaster Joo Hyuk was afraid of. Cusack even nervously asked if he was still allowed to breathe in there. When the door finally closes, Joo Hyuk is shaking. Cusack reappears and politely reports that he followed orders. The obedience that was funny 5 minutes ago now sits next to the reality of crushing debt and a family in danger. Joo Hyuk thinks about the tower. Clearing it might be his only escape, but he still doesn't know if he has the courage to try. He asks Cusack what to do. Cusack casually mentions that Joo Hyuk can unsummon him anytime, then immediately asks if he can just stay and watch TV instead. The request is so normal it breaks the tension entirely. Joo Hyuk gives in and lets a strange, temporary peace settle over the room. In the dim edges of the apartment, a man lies in distress, crying over betrayal, whispering a name, Yena, his daughter. The dark-clad figure nearby, Cusack, watches in silence. Even as a summoned being, having someone else around is comforting. Our guy smiles to himself and recognizes that after living and working alone for so long, companionship feels unexpectedly pleasant. Morning arrives with an 8 a.m. alarm. Joo Hyuk wakes, dismisses it, and notices something missing. Cusack is gone. The apartment is empty. Only after the confusion settles does the system explain what happened. John Cusack's summoning had a 6-hour time limit, and the duration expired while Joo Hyuk slept. The unsummoning happened automatically. No warning, no goodbye, just gone. Faced with work and routine, Joo Hyuk tries to push the entire awakening to the back of his mind and get ready for the day. That decision lasts until the television delivers breaking news. A report from Jongno-gu Seoul. The name Smile Cash, an illegal lending company, makes Joo Hyuk tense up instantly. Then the anchor says it. 3 victims found decapitated, their severed heads decorated with red ribbons. Joo Hyuk's toothbrush falls from his hand. The red ribbons, the memories, the smiling man wrapping heads like gifts. It connects in one horrifying flash. John Cusack, Joo Hyuk grabs his hair and erupts. He didn't summon a companion. He summoned a psychopathic murderer, and that murderer just slaughtered the men who came to his door. The crime scene footage makes it worse. Blood-soaked room, a hand with rings lying motionless, 3 heads arranged with bows like some grotesque ceremony. The horror follows him outside the apartment. Later, in a store aisle decorated with a cheerful Valentine's Day banner, Joo Hyuk is confronted by an even more surreal sight. Severed heads with red bows appear again, displayed against that absurdly festive backdrop, while Cusack demands that he ring it up as though this is some ordinary purchase. Joo Hyuk screams so loud another shopper asks if he's okay. He stammers an apology and blurts that he needs to make a call, using the excuse to escape the moment. He takes the next day off from all 3 jobs. He can't work, can't think, can't stop circling the same miserable question: is this his fault? Snow falls over his rooftop that night, and the cold isolation matches everything he feels. But Joo Hyuk is still a summoner, and the system still works. He summons Cusack again on purpose. Before the man fully appears, the system interrupts with something bizarre, a prompt asking Joo Hyuk to rate his satisfaction with the summon. And Joo Hyuk gets stuck in the most human moral conflict possible. He wants to punish Cusack with 1 star. The murders deserve it. But he remembers his mother's old customer service job and how much low ratings hurt people. Even now, even furious, he can't bring himself to go that low. He compromises. 3 stars. Cusack appears, cheerful as always, thanks him sincerely for the 3 stars, and promises to work harder. The contrast between that bright gratitude and the bodies on the news makes Joo Hyuk want to crawl out of his skin. He forces himself to ask directly, "Did you kill them?" "Yes." Cusack answers like he's reporting the weather. He tracked them using a mark he placed during the home invasion, found their office, and finished the job before his summoning time expired. Joo Hyuk's nausea rises. His heart slams against his ribs. He confronts Cusack. He never ordered anyone killed. Cusack's defense is chilling. He invokes the third principle: the summoner's life takes priority over obedience. If a person threatens Ju Hyuk, Kosak can interpret that threat broadly and act. The system backs him up. Ju Hyuk pushes harder. The men weren't an immediate threat. Why kill them? Kosak admits the clause allows broad interpretation. Ju Hyuk calls him psychotic. Kosak doesn't even flinch. He's heard it before. And now Ju Hyuk's fear expands beyond the apartment. If he takes Kosak into public and some random thug bumps into him and says, "You want to die?" the kind of thing people say without meaning it, Kosak might take those words literally. A figure of speech could become a death sentence. But then Kosak does something unexpected. He kneels and admits fault. Ju Hyuk tells him to get up and lays down a clear rule: no killing unless his life is directly, unmistakably in danger. Kosak doesn't give a clean promise. He says he'll use his best judgment and won't kill on suspicion alone. The wording is careful enough to sound compliant while preserving his own freedom to interpret danger. Ju Hyuk notices the dodge. He doesn't trust it. And then Kosak asks the question that changes everything. Have you considered climbing the tower? Ju Hyuk goes silent, because the tower is the one opportunity that could actually fix his life and the one thing he's too scared to face. He clenches his fist and admits the truth. He knows the tower is a rare chance, but he's terrified. In his mind, the fear takes a specific shape: a monstrous creature with glowing eyes, a symbol of the death he believes is waiting inside that place for anyone stupid enough to enter. Still, curiosity pushes him further. He asks Kosak whether he's served other summoners before. Kosak confirms that he has. He describes those past summoners as strong and brave. The answer cuts deep. Ju Hyuk immediately compares himself to them and comes up short. He confesses that people with awakened powers are supposed to risk themselves to save the world, but he doesn't even have the courage to risk his own life. He calls himself a coward. When Kosak tries to praise him, Ju Hyuk rejects it and doubles down on his own self-contempt, insisting there's nothing praiseworthy about a man who's afraid of everything. Kosak refuses to accept that judgment. He reframes everything with one argument. He says the greatest virtue of a summoner isn't bravery, it's survival. A brave summoner charges in and dies. A cautious summoner lives. And if the summoner dies, the summoned can never come outside again. Ju Hyuk's cowardice, the trait he hates most about himself, might be the one quality a summoner needs. Kosak promises to handle all the dangerous, filthy work himself. Ju Hyuk just needs to stay safe and live a long time. For the first time, a possibility opens up. Ju Hyuk might not need to become fearless. He might just need to stay exactly what he already is: cautious, scared, and alive. That new perspective doesn't fix him overnight. Another restless night passes, and when morning comes, Ju Hyuk wakes up with the same anxiety sitting on his chest like a brick. He tells himself he's not suited for the tower. He tries to accept a smaller dream, instead work a normal job. Be grateful the debt collectors are gone thanks to Kosak's horrifying cleanup, and trust that steady hard work will slowly dig him out. That retreat into ordinary thinking comes first, then his body undercuts it. Sharp pain hits his side, a physical reminder that his life is grinding him down whether he climbs or not. He calls his father to check on rehabilitation and ask about transferring to a bigger hospital. The conversation turns heavy almost immediately. During the call, Ju Hyuk learns that his mother lost her job. The news hits him like a wall. His father tries to soften it, tells him not to push himself, suggests they share a meal soon, but the reassurance can't erase what the call just revealed. The family's situation isn't stabilizing, it's getting worse. When the call ends, Ju Hyuk stands alone on that rooftop, buried under silence and the growing certainty that a normal life is not going to save them. That's the pressure that finally breaks the stalemate. Ju Hyuk suits up in the most Ju Hyuk outfit imaginable: safety gear like a construction site manager, a warning sign, and a baseball bat. The gear is ridiculous, but it matches his brain perfectly. He's not preparing to become a hero. He's preparing to survive a brief look at danger. He tells himself he'll only check the first floor, he'll leave immediately if anything feels wrong, and taking a day off gives him just enough room to test this. One problem remains: Kosak himself. Ju Hyuk hesitates. Working with a psycho feels dangerous in its own way. He wonders whether he can summon someone else, maybe a legendary being, some overwhelming force that comes without the moral nightmare. His imagination runs wild. He tries another random summon. The system shuts him down immediately. A cooldown window shows nearly a full month remaining. He's stuck with what he has. So, he summons Kosak again. The red-haired assassin appears, thanks him for the high rating, and stands ready. Ju Hyuk greets him awkwardly, privately hoping Kosak didn't notice he just tried to replace him. Then Ju Hyuk says it out loud. He's decided to enter the tower. Kosak reacts with surprise, then playful praise, then immediately undercuts the praise by warning him not to confuse this decision with bravery. The plan should be cautious from start to finish. Ju Hyuk can leave if it gets too dangerous. Kosak tells him to drop the crude weapons and useless gear inside the tower. Kosak will be the guide, the protector, and the weapon. Ju Hyuk won't need to fight. The system responds. Does he wish to enter Korea's Black Tower? Accessible floor, floor 1. He accepts. Kosak grabs him and pulls. Ju Hyuk screams for him to wait. Too late. The transition swallows the room, yanking him upward through a column of data and light like being shot through a digital cannon. Wind like pressure tears at his body. His voice disappears into the rush. When it stops, they're standing on the first floor, a cracked wasteland, sealed under a hexagonal energy barrier that hums like a containment field. Ju-hyuk stares at the barren ground and understands, with a drop in his stomach, that he isn't trying the tower anymore. He's in it. His body reacts before his brain, nausea, gagging. He bends over and retches from the stress. Kosak pats his back, tells him he'll get used to it, and points out they need to move beyond the safe zone. Ju-hyuk doesn't feel ready for beyond, but standing still in a place like this feels worse. The system confirms his physical abilities have been enhanced to match his level. New traits and combat skills are available. Ju-hyuk flexes his hand, surprised by the strength in it, surprised by how real being a player feels even at level 1. Then the tower gives him his first mission. Eliminate 5 tough-skinned fat maggots within 2 hours. Failure means death. Ju-hyuk's throat tightens at that word because it's not metaphorical here. He remembers what he read about these things offensively weak, but their skin is so absurdly tough that some players can only kill one every 30 minutes. 5 in 2 hours. The math is a trap designed to crush beginners. Ju-hyuk clenches his fist, steps toward the first target, and tells himself he'll take down just one. Even that small decision feels like stepping off a ledge. The first maggot lumbers toward him, huge, ugly, and heavy enough that its approach feels like a slow-motion disaster. Ju-hyuk's courage collapses into sweating terror. He grips his arm, breathes too fast, and silently begs for help. When John Kosak answers, Kosak appears in a smaller, almost absurdly cute form, praises Ju-hyuk for relying on him, and moves with cheerful certainty like this isn't dangerous at all. He tells Ju-hyuk to stand back and starts attacking with conjured shards and bladed bursts of energy. The tower's tough skin test doesn't matter when Kosak hits like a natural disaster. Green blood splatters, shells crack. Multiple maggots shatter into fragments in seconds. A nearby bystander, some construction worker type, stares in open disbelief like he's watching a staged demonstration instead of a mission with death as the penalty. The system doesn't care about feelings, it cares about results. Mission complete, level up. Rewards, a 100G mana stone, and an S++ rank platinum badge. Ju-hyuk blinks at the screen, stunned by how fast it ended. In his head, he'd prepared for a 2-hour war. In reality, it was annihilation. For one dizzy moment, optimism rushes in. If it stays like this, he could get rich. Then the story widens beyond him. Somewhere else, a woman in a suit notices a holographic screen. Another woman, still catching her breath from exercise, sees the same glow. A tattooed man in a dim room watches silently. Whatever just happened didn't only happen to Ju-hyuk. Something is affecting every player in Korea at once. The tower releases him before he can understand what it means. A beam of light drops him back into the real world, so suddenly the construction worker nearby jumps in shock. System text confirms his exit and authorizes him to challenge the second floor. Ju-hyuk stands there, still dressed for his day job, trying to reconcile the fact that he just cleared a lethal mission in about 5 minutes. When Kosak congratulates him later, Ju-hyuk protests that he did nothing. Kosak rejects that immediately. Standing back was the correct choice. It's the summoner's job to live. Ju-hyuk examines the rewards, a glowing mana stone. His first time seeing one in person, and the platinum badge he'd never even heard of. Mana stones are a cornerstone of the modern economy, roughly 50,000 won per 100 grams. Ju-hyuk's brain turns into a calculator. This is real money. Fast money, life-changing money. That night, normal life crashes into tower life in the strangest way. He orders jokbal and cold noodles and makes sure it's not spicy because Kosak can't handle heat. Kosak sniffs the food suspiciously anyway, convinced not spicy might still be spicy. Ju-hyuk tells him to drop the old-fashioned speech, learns it's a habit picked up from a previous summoner, and the conversation ends in laughter. A brief pocket of warmth that makes the earlier blood and ribbon horror feel like a nightmare from someone else's life. By morning, Ju-hyuk's mindset shifts. He looks at the tower and thinks, this might actually be doable. He puts a schedule on the wall, an earnest, real man's daily routine, and makes the decision that would have terrified him days ago. He quits his day labor job, full focus on climbing with Kosak. In his own cautious way, he calls it a flawless plan. Kosak reappears beaming about the perfect score, and Ju-hyuk finally asks what's been bugging him. Does the satisfaction rating actually matter? Kosak explains it does. Higher ratings mean longer summon duration, higher rank, and more summon calls. Ju-hyuk absorbs that quietly. The system isn't just evaluating his progress, it's evaluating his relationship with the weapon that carries him. Then they step into the second floor. New mission, eliminate 10 nimble fat maggots within 2 hours. These ones are faster, trickier, more alive. Kosak doesn't wobble at all, promises to finish in 3 minutes and escort Ju-hyuk home. Ju-hyuk, riding that borrowed certainty, jokes about celebrating with chicken and beer. Kosak bows, thanks him, and erases the problem with another overwhelming burst of power. Second floor cleared, level 2, 200G mana stone. Another S++ platinum badge. Third floor, 10 ice-bloated grubworms. Kosak teases Ju Hyuk for landing slowly. The floor ends just as decisively. Level 3. 300G mana stone, S++ again. 4th floor falls, another badge. 5th floor. Ju Hyuk and Kosak share a high five for the first time. That small moment of celebration sits on top of a bigger one. 5 S++ grade platinum badges have been accumulated. And 5 badges triggers something new. The system awards a perk, Awakening Trait Enhancement. Effect, simultaneous summon capacity increases from 1 to 2. Until now, Kosak was the only active summon. After this, Ju Hyuk could potentially bring 2 summoned beings into battle at once. The ceiling of his entire trait just changed. He starts thinking ahead instead of just reacting. If this climb is going to be long, stacking advantages will keep him safer. One limit keeps the excitement in check. The random summon cooldown still has more than 20 days left. He's got the capacity for a second summon, but no way to roll one yet. Same cautious conclusion as before. Survive steadily until the timer ends. Meanwhile, outside Ju Hyuk's room, other people are starting to notice. At the Awakening Management Department, officials react to a new announcement, another S++ clear, now on the 6th floor. Since floors 1 through 5 were already cleared in sequence with the same impossible rank, they conclude one extraordinary person is almost certainly responsible. The discussion gets serious fast. The highest recognized rank in Korea had been A, but the tower revealed rankings beyond that, with full announcements only for S++ clears. International stakes are in play too. Player migration between countries is common, and tower-related kidnappings are happening in the shadows. The priority becomes obvious. Find this mystery climber before another country does. So the department orders closer monitoring of newly registered players. The entire state apparatus begins turning toward the unknown record holder without realizing the person they're hunting is a deeply anxious part-timer climbing in secret with a homicidal but cheerful summon. By the 8th floor, even Kosak treats the missions like routine. 10 red thornfrog warriors attack with leaping strikes and long tongues, and the threat barely registers before Kosak slices through them with glowing blades. Another flawless result, 800G mana stones, a tower-exclusive healing potion, and yet another platinum badge. Ju Hyuk downplays his role. Kosak celebrates like they shared the work equally. The pattern is locked in, Ju Hyuk survives, Kosak annihilates, and the system pays out top-tier rewards. Ju Hyuk examines the healing potion reward and briefly considers whether he should give it to Kosak, a small passing thought. But the first sign that he's starting to think of his summon as someone who deserves care, not just obedience. Then his brain does what it always does. It pivots to money. He starts calculating the monetary value of his growing mana stone pile and thinking seriously about cashing in. His attitude toward the tower has shifted completely. He entered intending to try it once. Now he's frustrated by his part-time jobs and openly treating S++ bonuses as extra profit. When he summons Kosak again, the system reports a perfect satisfaction evaluation. Result, Kosak's devotion time increases by 1 additional hour. Kosak is delighted. He thanks Ju Hyuk for the highest score and promises even greater loyalty. Then comes the 10th floor. The system boosts Ju Hyuk's abilities again, and this time the adjustment feels more dramatic. A surge of power, a strange concentration of magic deep in his lower abdomen, enough that he briefly wonders if he's becoming something wild. Kosak tells him that from here on, he'll help more actively. Then the floor reveals its real threat, a giant praying mantis monster emerging from an egg-like structure, with enough force to make everything before this feel like a warm-up. Ju Hyuk is shocked that a 10th floor enemy can be this strong. Even with the tension rising, he and Kosak still manage to joke about how fighting giant bugs is bad for their pride. The banter ends when the real combat starts. The mantis looms over them. It ends the same way. Decisive. System confirms. 10th floor cleared, level up, 1 kilogram of mana stones, S++ rank, platinum badge. Total mana stone inventory, 5.5 kilograms. But the bigger reward comes from the badge count. 10 platinum badges triggers a new perk, the ability to copy one skill from his summon. Kosak's recommendation is immediate Shadow Step. When Ju Hyuk asks why, Kosak explains with perfect practicality. Shadow Step is ideal for escaping fast and disappearing safely when things go bad. Ju Hyuk's first instinct is to reject it. He insists he's not the kind of man who would run away just to save himself. Even so, he accepts the skill. Quick footwork is too important to ignore. He tests it in the real world. The skill works, instantly moving him across the yard. The success is impressive. It also wipes him out completely. After a few tries, he's sprawled on the ground, panting and complaining about how inconsistent the system is. Kosak naturally finds the whole thing hilarious. By day 11, Ju Hyuk makes another decision that feels monumental to him in a completely different way. He nervously calls the Awakening Management Department to report his awakening. He does it because he wants to sell his mana stones, and even making that phone call feels in his own mind like the bravest thing he's done in 25 years. The department congratulates him and sends 2 officials, team leader Jong Gwang-il and manager Lee Mina. They've already been tracking the S++ mystery and ruled out other candidates. When they arrive, Ju Hyuk is flustered from the moment Lee Mina steps in close and asks if he's the awakened individual. He blushes. Then she drops it on him. She tells Ju Hyuk with unmistakable emphasis that he is an S++ rank case. Ju Hyuk's heart slams. He panics internally, wonders how they zeroed in on him so fast, and makes a desperate decision: deny everything. Act natural. He laughs awkwardly, claims he's only heard vague rumors about the S++ climber, and insists he's not the person they're looking for. The denial sounds terrible even to him. His body betrays him. He stiffens, twitches, forces a thumbs up, and acting natural turns into a performance so clumsy it deepens their suspicion. John steps in before Mina pushes too far. He scolds her lightly, she apologizes, and the room softens, but the damage is done. They were probing him and they got exactly what they needed. The officials haven't even gotten to the hard part yet. Before anything else moves forward, Ju Hyuk gets the standard registration briefing. A mascot named Tavi pops up as a symbolic guide and lays out the full picture. The Black Tower appeared worldwide 20 years ago, armies and scientists couldn't get near it because of an invisible barrier, and only the emergence of players revealed what it actually was: a game-like structure of floors, rewards, and escalating survival. Outside the tower, players look ordinary. Inside, they gain overwhelming abilities, and the resources they bring back have reshaped the entire global economy. Then the briefing turns dark. If a country stops climbing, a collapse countdown begins. That countdown only stops when someone clears a new upper floor. If nobody does within 6 months, collapse becomes inevitable. The briefing invokes Mumbai as proof. 3 years ago, the city disappeared when that countdown hit 0. Players aren't just adventurers. They're the only reason civilization is still standing. Ju Hyuk absorbs all of that with a growing weight on his shoulders. Once the required viewing ends, the officials turn back to him for formal verification. This time, he stops denying the basics. He admits he entered the tower, places his mana stones on the table, and reveals he reached the 10th floor. That answer changes the room. Joan and Lee react sharply because the 10th floor matches the S++ progression they've been tracking. Ju Hyuk only meant to prove he was awakened, but the floor number makes the connection almost impossible to deny. The conversation shifts to contracts. Lee Mina explains the two categories: general team and elite team. General team players operate like freelancers. Elite team members work closely with the department, attempt harder clears, and get substantial benefits. Personal protection outside the tower and a guaranteed annual salary. She frames it like a promotion. To Ju Hyuk, every added benefit sounds less like comfort and more like a trap. His mind jumps to the nightmare of being publicly identified, reporters swarming, cameras in his face, his private life blasted into public view. The image alone makes him recoil. Then Lee adds the deal breaker. Elite applicants have to record their raids with a government body camera. That's not oversight, that's footage. Direct evidence of how he climbs. For someone whose entire strategy depends on keeping Kozak hidden, it's intolerable. So Ju Hyuk refuses. Cleanly, without hesitation. He says he lacks talent, the elite conditions frighten him, and he has no interest in that kind of spotlight. He'll stay general team. The officials question his decision, but he doesn't budge. Their quiet judgment lands anyway. Whatever his value, this man doesn't have the bold ambition they associate with elite climbers. Jean accepts the refusal politely and moves to the final step: official awakening confirmation. For that, Ju Hyuk has to enter the tower in front of them. Jean even suggests he clear a floor while he's inside. Ju Hyuk immediately suspects the real purpose they want to see if he produces another S++ result. Still, he agrees and warns them it could take close to 2 hours. A bright surge of energy confirms his awakening, but even after seeing it, the officials remain unimpressed by his demeanor. Privately, they agree he's definitely awakened, yet also timid, subdued, and lacking the air of a serious climber. Lee Mina predicts he'll probably give up at the 11th floor. Her reasoning: the 11th floor is a test of fear. Its enemies are long-tailed giant centipedes, not individually overwhelming but horrifying in number. Kill one easy, kill hundreds while surrounded? A timid man like Ju Hyuk will look at that and retreat. Inside the tower, Ju Hyuk summons Kozak. The 11th floor mission window appears: eliminate 100 long-tailed giant centipedes within 3 hours. The number is disgusting. The fact that they're centipedes makes it worse. Kozak treats it as trivial. Ju Hyuk immediately orders him to slow down. The logic is desperate but clear: if they clear the floor too fast, the result lands in the same S++ record the officials are watching. He needs this run to look ordinary, bad even, slow enough that nobody connects him to the impossible climber. Kozak adds another precaution. Because people are waiting outside, he'll unsummon before Ju Hyuk returns so nobody sees evidence. The strategy is set: enter, clear, but muddy the record. At first, it works. Ju Hyuk fights directly, uses sword strikes and magic to kill centipedes, and keeps telling Kozak to hold back. The floor becomes a balancing act between survival and concealment. Then the fear test starts working on him. The centipedes swarm harder than expected. One bad moment breaks his confidence. Panic locks his body. Even when he knows he needs a skill to escape, the pressure freezes him. Kosak rushes in to protect him. The fight escalates and Ju Hyuk keeps screaming for the pace to stay slow while the situation slips out of control. He's trying to preserve a bad record while also not dying, and those two goals are no longer compatible. The result is the opposite of what he wanted. The system announces, 11th floor cleared, S++ rank, platinum badge. Despite every effort to look average, he just added another impossible clear to the public record, and it happened fast enough that anyone watching will know. Outside, Lee Mina and the others had been sitting there expecting him to give up after a few minutes. Instead, a digital announcement confirms S++ on the 11th floor. Their expectations shatter on the spot. The timid man they dismissed just produced exactly the result they were watching for. When Ju Hyuk returns, the magical energy around him makes the awakening undeniable. The timing overlaps with the announcement. The officials no longer have to guess. The evidence is lined up directly in front of them. Ju Hyuk understands what that means. And for one terrible moment, his fear takes a shape it's never taken before. A thought flickers through his mind: someone might need to be silenced. That impulse lasts exactly one heartbeat. The idea of actually hurting the officials sends him into visible panic. He tenses, sweats, spirals. He's not a killer. The mere possibility horrifies him. But John Kosak doesn't need more than a flicker. The instant Ju Hyuk's fear and intent flare, Kosak moves like an assassination order has already been issued. A dark figure with a drawn blade surges into motion. Ju Hyuk, realizing what's about to happen, screams Kosak's name not to begin the attack but to stop it. Too slow, Kosak reaches Lee Mina and Jeong Gwang-il before Ju Hyuk can compose himself. Both officials are pinned in a burst of binding energy so fast neither can react. The restraint comes first. Ju Hyuk's scream follows. Then the situation nearly gets worse. The possibility of beheading surfaces so naturally in Kosak's logic that Ju Hyuk's panic explodes. He denies ever wanting that, flaring with raw fear and outrage. His moment of desperation almost translated into the kind of slaughter only Kosak would consider practical. The officials, bloodied and terrified, collapse into apology and submission. They call Ju Hyuk's name and beg forgiveness. Moments earlier, they were government representatives. Now they're frightened people on the ground trying to survive a misunderstanding with a player far more dangerous than they'd expected. Ju Hyuk calms down enough to apologize awkwardly, claims he just got paranoid for a second, and tries to act like the outburst was nothing. The explanation sounds flimsy, but it's the only path back from catastrophe. The officials accept the retreat and then escalate. The tone has changed completely. No more pretending Ju Hyuk is a minor applicant. Instead of an ordinary elite contract, they present something unprecedented, an ultra-elite contract. The benefits hit like a freight train: annual salary, 2 billion won, real estate provision, VIP treatment, full protective security. Then it gets more extreme legal immunity, making the holder functionally untouchable by ordinary law. Ju Hyuk internally questions whether such a privilege can even be legal, and the comparison that follows drives it home. These are the same privileges granted to Yoo Cheolmin, Korea's top-ranked player. The government is offering Ju Hyuk the same tier of treatment as the nation's most important combat asset. It's supposed to be flattering. To Ju Hyuk, it's terrifying. So, he refuses again. Firmly, he makes it clear he wants a regular contract, not elite. Certainly not ultra-elite. When they ask why anyone would reject this, Ju Hyuk gives the simplest truth he has. He hates attention. It's not an excuse. Receiving attention makes his heart pound. Too much scrutiny makes him feel suffocated. Even a salesperson noticing him is enough to make him want to leave a store forever. Becoming a nationally protected ultra-elite figure isn't a dream. It's a prison. He also understands the hidden cost. Elite contracts don't just provide privileges. They create obligations. Once he accepts, backing down later won't be simple. He doesn't want to become indispensable. He just wants a life better than before. The negotiation shifts. Lee Mina accepts and proceeds with a standard contract. Inside the department afterward, officials confirm two facts simultaneously. Ju Hyuk is undeniably S++ rank, and he possesses the most timid, ordinary personality they've ever seen in someone this powerful. One superior cuts through the hesitation. Personality flaws don't matter. Talent does. The directive is firm. Recruit him to the elite team no matter what. Ju Hyuk, furious at how things spiraled, lashes out at Kosak and warns him not to repeat that behavior. Then he moves on. The 12th floor. Mission: eliminate 20 ice icicle spear weasels within 3 hours. The cold is brutal. Ju Hyuk starts shivering immediately, face turning pale. Kosak offers to clear it fast so they can get back to warmth, but Ju Hyuk refuses. If he clears slowly, maybe the officials will lose interest. Same concealment strategy, same stubbornness. And in the middle of a deadly tower mission, part of Ju Hyuk's anxiety is devoted to the simple, mundane terror of catching a cold. Our guy is genuinely more afraid of getting sick than getting killed by weasels. The system doesn't care about his performance art. 12th floor cleared, S++ rank, platinum badge. No matter how hard Ju Hyuk tries to appear average, the record keeps getting more extraordinary. The 13th floor changes the formula entirely. Instead of monsters, the floor is a corridor packed with traps, fire hazards, mechanical kill zones, unpredictable triggers. Kosak has to physically shove Ju Hyuk back from stumbling into danger. Overwhelming strength doesn't erase the risk here. Ju Hyuk responds the only way he knows how. Frantic determination to get through it as fast as possible. They rush through while traps detonate around them, and the system announces another S++ clear. Before he can even breathe, the tower advances him to the 14th floor. Giant eyeball bats with dangerous sonic strikes descend immediately. Energy slashes and rapid attacks tear through the swarm. The 14th floor falls like the others. Ju Hyuk has a brief quiet moment of acceptance afterward, not bravery, but fatigue turning into something close to it. Whatever happens next, happens. Back in the real world, the financial side reasserts itself. Ju Hyuk checks his bank history and sees the deposits from Monostone sales landing in his account. Real money, in his actual bank? The numbers from floors 11 through 14 push his earnings into serious territory, over 7 million won in just 2 weeks, projectable to roughly 30 million won per month. For a man who was drowning in debt, scraping by on ramen and working 3 jobs, that number isn't good money. That's escape. That's dignity. Ju Hyuk quits his part-time jobs, all of them, full commitment to climbing. The 15th floor shifts into a forest filled with goblin workers. This time the challenge isn't brute force, it's stealth. Kosak warns that if even one goblin escapes, it'll alert the rest, so Kosak slips into a silent movement technique and moves through them like a shadow. Goblins die without understanding what's happening. Multiple workers fall with no alarm, no visible chaos. Pure assassination turned into clean floor clearing efficiency. 15th floor cleared. S++ rank. Another platinum badge. And the badge count hits 15. The milestone triggers a new perk, an energy barrier kit. It manifests as a glowing ring-like device on Ju Hyuk's wrist. The description explains it generates a damage-absorbing barrier around his entire body until it soaks a set amount of damage, then enters cooldown. Durability scales with level, basically full body force armor. But here's what makes Ju Hyuk's eyes widen. The item doesn't appear to be tower restricted. He tests it outside. The glowing barrier holds steady in the real world. For the most paranoid, danger-averse man on the planet, a defensive tool he can wear outside the tower isn't just convenient. It's safety he can live inside. But Ju Hyuk being Ju Hyuk, he can't just trust it. He insists on testing the energy barrier properly. In a move that perfectly captures his reckless and cautious contradiction, he has a blade used against him to prove the thing actually works. The point isn't self-destruction, it's certainty. The test confirms the barrier absorbs damage, but it also makes something clear. Taking a hit before activating it is still dangerous. Kosak reacts with alarm and scolds him afterward, treating the experiment as exactly the kind of needless risk that gets summoners killed. Ju Hyuk takes the lecture. He probably deserves it. His brain immediately calculates what it's worth. Billions of won. The temptation is instant: sell it, cash out, stop climbing forever. One sale could solve everything. But the idea doesn't hold. If the tower gives out rewards like this at 15 badges, deeper floors might yield something even better. The temptation to quit shifts into strategic ambition. Instead of selling, Ju Hyuk decides to keep climbing. He asks Kosak if they can clear the 16th floor with S++ rank. Kosak doesn't give him easy reassurance. He says clearing is possible, but S++ can't be guaranteed. That answer matters. Up through the 15th floor, top rank clears had become almost routine. From here, even Kosak acknowledges the difficulty curve has changed. That wall is real. At the Awakening Management Department, officials note that the S++ record hasn't updated in 15 days. The streak paused at 15. Everyone monitoring the tower knows what that implies. One senior official pounds his desk in frustration. How could such exceptional talent end up in someone so timid? But then they learn Ju Hyuk's been repeatedly farming the 15th floor to accumulate money for better equipment. The stall wasn't inability. It was preparation. That realization softens the official attitude immediately. Orders come down to support him aggressively at the player shop, give him access to whatever items he wants at low prices. Ju Hyuk spends 2 weeks farming. While Kosak hunts goblins, Ju Hyuk practices shadow step during the downtime. At first it's just mobility training, but over time the movement becomes fast, fluid, and instinctive. One session, Ju Hyuk spots a goblin hidden nearby, concealed even from Kosak for a moment. The goblin attacks. Ju Hyuk activates the energy barrier in live combat for the first time, absorbs the hit, and follows up with a kick that sends the goblin reeling. For once, he's not just being protected, he's contributing. Kosak praises his kick like it's a clean soccer pass, then scolds him for being reckless. Same principle, always, survival first. When Ju Hyuk finally visits the player shop, a limousine picks him up. He's greeted as Player Bong, and given VIP treatment in a store that's been closed to every other player just for him. His mana stones sell for 11.25 million won. A 90% discount has been arranged so he won't feel uncomfortable accepting help. He browses an adamant mace and basilisk leather boots, painfully aware that nothing is truly free and that discounts this generous come with invisible expectations. He admits something uncomfortable. The perks are becoming addictive. He can feel himself getting greedier. That greed pushes him forward the next day. Instead of repeating the 15th floor again, they'll finally move on to the 16th, and, just before going in, the random summon cooldown ends. Ju Hyuk launches into a chaotic, desperate summoning ritual, invoking every blessing and magical phrase he can think of. The energy intensifies strangely. A glowing purple figure materializes with far more force than expected. Debris scatters, the impact shakes the room. Ju Hyuk stares and thinks one thing, what did I just summon? And then, because this is still Ju Hyuk, a second thought crashes in right behind it. The sight of this overwhelming summon makes him think of his lost security deposit money. He goes straight back to financial despair in the middle of a major power-up moment. The new summon is a massive, tattooed barbarian warrior with red eyes and a physique that makes Ju Hyuk wonder if he summoned a man or a monster. Kosak reacts even faster. He launches into violence, kicking and attacking the barbarian while hurling insults. The barbarian barely seems bothered. He takes the blows and calmly says they tickle. That escalates Kosak into drawing blades and threatening to tie a pretty ribbon on his head. Ju Hyuk screams for him to stop before the room becomes another bloodbath. The system identifies the newcomer R-rank rare barbarian warrior. The lowest possible draw. Ju Hyuk's disappointment is visible. Compared to Kozak's super rare, this feels like the gacha equivalent of pulling a common from a gold chest. The barbarian can't even remember his own name. He doesn't know why he's there. He can barely grasp what the tower is. Then Ju Hyuk gets pulled into the summon's memories. He lands inside a bright, peaceful field full of butterflies. The barbarian is there, gentle and childlike, admiring the beauty around him. A man who genuinely loves simple, natural things. That peace shatters when the memory darkens. The barbarian was a pure warrior of the Great Plains tribe, physically overwhelming but very dim-witted. Strong enough to play with giant wolves like puppies, but so simple he forgot his own name. The tragedy follows. A knight named Arius enters. The barbarian is deceived by a false hero and used as a meat shield against the archfiend Hydra. The betrayal comes first. His sacrifice follows. He tears heads off the monster with his bare hands while acid burns and melts his skin away. Even while dying, he protects the people who exploited him. And when it's over, instead of honoring his sacrifice, his own comrades mock him for being an idiot. Ju Hyuk watches the full ugliness, the dissolving remains, the thankless death, the contempt, and when he comes out of the memory, he's shaken. But no longer dismissive. He accepts the summon as he is. He proposes they climb the tower together. And because the barbarian can't remember his own name, Ju Hyuk offers options and pushes him to choose. The name he picks, Meatball, silly. But the emotional beat underneath it is real. Ju Hyuk promises to make him happy and asks for his trust. Then Ju Hyuk formalizes the new team. Himself, John Kosak, and Meatball comrades climbing together, one cautious summoner, one mad assassin, one loyal meat shield, pushing deeper into the tower as the most unstable, most unlikely trio in Korea. The trio enters the 16th floor together for the first time. System boosts Ju Hyuk's physical abilities again and unlocks more skills. Mission: eliminate 30 goblin scouts within 5 hours. A tactical warning comes with it: activate the energy barrier and use Shadow Step carefully, because these scouts fight with unpredictable poison darts from concealment. The warning proves necessary immediately. A dart flies out of the shadows. This is an ambush map. Goblin scouts are hidden in the forest, attacking from above and from cover. Kosak moves first, blocking incoming poison darts and telling Ju Hyuk to dodge. Then Ju Hyuk realizes the scale of the problem. There aren't 30 goblins out there. There are more than 50, far beyond what the mission description implied. Ju Hyuk sends Meatball to the front line. Meatball obeys, activates a fiery aura, and braces like a living wall. Then, the supposed R-rank summon proves exactly why the ranking system is a lie. Meatball launches himself into the goblin scouts with a massive fiery strike, creating blasts that scatter and kill them in groups. Kozak carves through enemies with precision energy attacks. Meatball handles the battlefield like a blunt force disaster, wide area destruction, physically overpowering goblins so badly that Ju Hyuk can only stare. The R-rank barbarian is fighting far above his label. Ju Hyuk makes the connection in his head. Meatball's combat power alone should qualify him as SR or even SSR. If he was ranked low, it wasn't because he was weak, it was because he was stupid. The thought is blunt, but it's also admiring. Meatball's simplicity hid his actual worth. After the fight, the mood relaxes for the first time. Back in the real world, Meatball happily devours fried chicken. Kozak complains the food is too spicy. Meatball mocks him for looking foolish. Ju Hyuk watches their clumsy dynamics settle into something resembling real companionship. Beneath the comedy, the shift is genuine. The team is becoming a team. Meatball talks about food in the most direct terms possible. Being fed means being given life. He mangles the word chicken, gets corrected harshly, and keeps eating happily anyway. The 17th floor. Mission: eliminate 30 goblin warriors. The system announces physical enhancement and new skills. This time the power-up hits Ju Hyuk hard enough that he physically feels it: veins rising, muscles tightening, a surge building in him at level 17. The growth isn't abstract anymore, he feels it in his flesh. That sensation awakens something strange inside him, a wild force he can barely name, like an inner wild horse stirring awake. Cossack and Meatball reaffirm their roles. Cossack warns Ju-hyuk not to get complacent. Meatball, simpler but no less sincere, says his job is to stand in front and protect the summoner so he can stay alive. Different personalities, same point. Ju-hyuk's survival remains the center of everything. The battlefield looks overwhelming. At least 90 goblin warriors, all more intimidating in person than in any strategy video. These aren't mindless monsters, they're capable of tactics and organized movement. Ju-hyuk recalls the walkthrough he studied. Retreat to a safe zone, let the formation scatter, lure them out in small groups. Exactly the kind of cautious, low-risk tactic that suits his personality. But Meatball changes the equation. Ju-hyuk bypasses the elaborate summoning formality and calls Meatball forward directly, a sign of how natural their bond has become. Meatball answers with immediate destructive force. Watching that, Ju-hyuk's confidence surges. With Meatball on the team, he starts to believe they can reach the 20th floor or higher. Instead of merely surviving, Ju-hyuk gives the order to wipe out all enemies. Meatball charges straight into the goblin formation, shrugging off spears, smashing through tactics, and scattering bodies with fiery, explosive force. Ju-hyuk watches the carnage and arrives at something simple and brutal. Tactics only matter when both sides are in the same weight class. Against Meatball, goblin coordination looks as useful as bicycles trying to swarm a tank. System confirms. 17th floor cleared, S++ rank, platinum badge. The tower advances them immediately. 18th floor. Eliminate 30 goblin assassins. These are stealth monsters, concealment, sudden movement, ambushes. Meatball charges in under Ju-hyuk's order, but the assassins vanish from sight so effectively that even he's left confused. Brute force alone won't solve this floor. That's when Cossack takes over. In almost theatrical fashion, he mocks the previous strategy, announces he'll demonstrate something cleaner, and activates Shadow Step. The massacre that follows is precise and efficient. Cossack tears through hidden goblin assassins with swift decapitations, proving their stealth is meaningless against someone with better stealth and better killing technique. Ju-hyuk realizes, with a mix of annoyance and admiration, that Cossack essentially turned the floor into a showcase. And the rivalry is useful. Meatball's growing presence is making Cossack restless and competitive. Cossack pushes harder because he has someone to outperform. Ju-hyuk quietly concludes this tension is working in his favor. By this point, something inside Ju-hyuk is changing. Around level 18, a long-hidden inner power surfaces Wild Horse Release. The activation is dramatic, a sudden surge that marks a real shift in how his body responds to combat. Until now, Ju-hyuk has been the frightened summoner trying not to die while stronger beings fought for him. That balance is starting to tip. He enters the 18th floor more prepared than before. He's studied the strategy information ahead of time and understands the goblin assassin's stealth better. It's low level enough that with focus, he can detect their movement. That knowledge changes his role from passenger to participant. The floor tests him directly. Ju-hyuk loses his balance mid-combat when a destabilizing force hits him, but even off balance he thrusts forward and kills a goblin assassin with a clean strike to the head. The mission count starts climbing 10 out of 30, then higher. The danger doesn't disappear just because progress is happening. Assassins keep appearing with strikes aimed at his blind spots. One nearly lethal blow is blocked only because his energy barrier activates in time. The save matters, he's stronger now, but still fragile enough that one mistake could end him. Then his perception shifts. As multiple assassins attack at once, Ju-hyuk feels the world slow down. Their blades, which should be hard to follow, become readable. In that heightened state, he dodges, counters, and unleashes a powerful red energy slash that decapitates an enemy cleanly. This is the real turning point. Ju-hyuk isn't only surviving by relying on others anymore. He's actively killing tower enemies with his own sharpened instincts. 18th floor cleared. S++ rank, platinum badge, Korea's 18th consecutive S++ clear. The news spreads instantly. Officials praise the mysterious player and call him unstoppable. Others warn that revealing his identity would be dangerous. Inside government circles, Bong Ju-hyuk is officially treated as a super special player requiring extraordinary care. Publicly, the nation becomes obsessed with who the mysterious climber is, estimated around level 19, and rewriting the history of tower raids. Back in private, the mood is different. Cossack grows visibly uneasy. When Ju-hyuk presses him, Cossack admits the truth. The speed at which Ju-hyuk is realizing his talent is too fast. He watched Ju-hyuk copy and execute Shadow Step at such a high level that even Cossack judged it dangerously perfect. Ju-hyuk isn't just a cautious summoner growing stronger through perks anymore. His personal combat talent is surfacing faster than anyone expected. Cossack issues a warning. As Ju-hyuk gains confidence and starts finding combat enjoyable, the danger will rise in proportion. Prioritize safety above everything. Ju-hyuk agrees and promises not to be reckless. But there's an unease underneath the promise, a growing sense that someone in this arrangement is going to cause an accident someday. That tension snaps into chaos almost immediately. Cossack and Meatball get into another violent clash. The barbarian mocks Kosak's outburst, Kosak retaliates with fury, and the fight spills into Ju Hyuk's kitchen. Things go flying, the room gets wrecked. Ju Hyuk intervenes screaming, and what he's most upset about isn't the danger, it's that even the kimchi his mother gave him got spilled and ruined. That domestic mess pushes him towards something he's been avoiding. He goes home. The mood shifts completely. His parents welcome him warmly, his father complains about his slow healing hip, his mother tells him to rest more. They gather around a simple stew, and for a brief stretch, the tower, the government pressure, and the summoning chaos all give way to an ordinary family meal. The family's financial reality comes back into focus around the table. His mother says she'll find work again. The family tries to reassure Ju Hyuk. He considers revealing something about his awakening, but a family member's interruption makes him retreat from the thought. Even sitting with them, he can't open up. There's joking and teasing. They compare him to his father, ask if he's really going to work. Ju Hyuk has already quit his jobs but tries to play it off as just a day off. His mother notices instantly. She calls him out for looking like he's lying. Then her tone shifts. She tells him she trusts him but warns him seriously never to get involved with loan sharks. That warning triggers the ugly memory. Smile cash, the blood, the ribbons, the debt world Kosak ripped apart without permission. The story clarifies what happened to his mother. She was fired after standing up to a rude customer who tried to force humiliating cleaning work on her. The parents' personalities round out too. His mother is aggressive and brave. His father is affectionately described as a timid, real beta male. And Ju Hyuk and his brother apparently inherited that same weak but persistent disposition. Ju Hyuk quietly gives money to his parents as an allowance. His brother, with sibling bluntness, reminds him he forgot to include a share. Ju Hyuk transfers 500,000 won and warns him not to waste it. Playful on the surface, but it underscores the bigger change. Ju Hyuk is now financially supporting his family in a way he never could before. After the visit, he heads to the Awakening Management Department and decides on his next purchase, a shield. Lee Mina shows him a golden shield worth 100 million won. His reaction is pure sticker shock. Then she presents a better fit, a small round hand shield made from an adamantium sectonium alloy. Light, relatively cheap, self-repairing. He tries it on, feels it match him perfectly, winces at the 40 million won price, and buys it anyway. Privately, he concludes that talking to shop staff is somehow harder than fighting goblins. Leaving the shop, he meets someone new. A player named Choi Hoseok introduces himself casually, says he visits the shop almost every day, and implies he's around the 30th floor. Smooth, confident, easygoing, everything Ju Hyuk isn't. Hoseok offers to help if Ju Hyuk ever runs into trouble. After he leaves, Ju Hyuk can't help envying him, not for strength, for how naturally the man handles people. He even finds himself bitterly wondering whether a guy like that obviously has a girlfriend. Remember that name, Choi Hoseok. That night, Ju Hyuk and Kosak have a serious conversation before the 19th floor. Kosak urges safety above everything. Ju Hyuk reassures him that if climbing becomes too difficult, he'll quit. He openly calls himself a coward. Then he pushes for something concrete, a promise that Kosak won't recklessly charge on his own. They reach a grim tactical understanding. If the situation becomes truly unmanageable, Meatball will be the one sacrificed first. Cold, but entirely consistent with Ju Hyuk's survival logic. Just before they begin, Kosak suddenly notices a strange smell. Before the tension settles, Ju Hyuk offers him steamed dumplings as a gesture of camaraderie. Kosak is visibly touched. While eating, he asks a seemingly random question: does Ju Hyuk hold grudges against anyone? Ju Hyuk denies it. Then Kosak freezes. Someone is outside the door, carrying unmistakable killing intent. A voice calls from outside. Kosak orders Ju Hyuk to hide. Something is blasted loose and bounces across the room. Then the intruder steps into the doorway, with a gun already fired, greeting Ju Hyuk in a mocking tone. The attacker reveals he's been following Ju Hyuk since spotting him at the player shop. His demand is blunt: take off the bracelet and open the inventory. This isn't random. Someone tracked him specifically to rob his tower resources. Ju Hyuk's brain calculates instantly. Anyone threatening him in his own apartment with Kosak nearby is either insane or suicidal. But the gun in his face makes the danger feel very real. The intruder's confidence lasts exactly long enough for one punch. His fist crashes into Ju Hyuk's face hard enough to snap his head aside. A second presence appears, fast, precise, lethal. A blade glows. The danger widens from robbery to assassination. Then John Kosak moves. One moment the attacker dominates the room. The next he's down and neutralized without being killed. Ju Hyuk praises Kosak in a rush for knocking the man out without taking his head. For Ju Hyuk, that restraint feels like the difference between disaster and irreversible horror. The term surfaces clearly: item broker. A criminal who targets players outside the tower, kills them while they're just civilians, and steals their items. It's exactly the scenario the department warned about when they explained why elite players get protection. If Ju Hyuk couldn't summon in the real world, he'd have died helplessly in his own room. The arrest comes fast. Police swarm the scene, and the intruder is Choi Hoseok, the same smooth player who introduced himself at the shop and offered help. The friendliness that felt so natural was predatory all along. He hadn't been a helpful senior, he'd been hunting his target. Then comes the nightmare twist. Because it's a home invasion scene, the police insist Joo Hyuk, the victim, has to come to the station too. He ends up in prison clothing, protesting that he's the one who got robbed. Team leader Joan arrives like a storm, forceful and furious. Hoseok tries to spin a victim story. Joan shuts it down violently, striking him mid-excuse. An official turns to Joo Hyuk afterward, checks if he's hurt, and delivers a deep, formal apology. The internal conclusion is final. Delaying Joo Hyuk's protection is no longer acceptable. With the crisis contained, Joo Hyuk returns to what he knows: climbing. Meatball is summoned again, openly amazed at the stars associated with Joo Hyuk's standing. They enter the 19th floor. Mission: defeat 30 goblin shamans. Meatball charges without hesitation. Dark curse energy manifests ominous hands. Red-black magic, but Meatball's explosive force disrupts it in a brutish, almost unfair way. Cossack coordinates tightly. Joo Hyuk tries to join the fight, but the clear happens so fast he realizes, again, that his summons can finish the mission while he's still gathering his nerve. 19th floor cleared. S++ rank. Then they enter the 20th floor, openly labeled the talent evaluator. Cossack doesn't hide his seriousness. This floor is packed with layered goblin threats: scouts, assassins, shamans, and hobgoblins. The mission: defeat 100 goblins and 1 hobgoblin within 10 hours. Cossack tells Joo Hyuk to stay safe. Joo Hyuk's growing frustration about being excluded flares. The plan is set anyway. Meatball draws aggro, Cossack strikes during openings, Joo Hyuk survives. The 20th floor begins in chaos. Shamans cast curses, warriors raise weapons, dark red energy, arrow-like spells, pressure from every direction. Cossack fires ranged attacks and surges forward. Meatball holds the line. And then Joo Hyuk does the thing Cossack feared. He drops in. Using speed and timing that shock even his own allies, he descends into the combat zone, cutting into the storm of spells and arrows like he's decided he won't be a protected bystander anymore. Cossack screams his name in disbelief. A flashback explains why. Since childhood, Bong Joo Hyuk has been the kid who stayed on the edge of every group. While other children played, he sat alone pushing a toy truck. A bigger boy walked up, grabbed it, and laughed. Joo Hyuk didn't fight back. He just watched it get taken. Elementary school made it worse. He walked the halls with a note on his backpack, mocking him as a rent beggar. Middle school didn't change the pattern. Classmates ranked him like a video game. Character: bronze. Casual slaps that said, "We can touch you however we want." By high school, he ate lunch alone and convinced himself it was safer not to try. Trying meant risking rejection in public. Being alone kept the shame predictable. That history is the reason his present feels impossible. When the tower entered his life, Joo Hyuk couldn't stop questioning himself. He'd been afraid of ordinary delinquents his whole life. How could someone like him fight monsters? But then he made a discovery. Monsters aren't people. They don't carry social humiliation. In his mind, they became like Game Quest mobs, dangerous but emotionally simpler. And once that clicked, something sharp and greedy rose in him. If he could crush them, he could take the reward. That shift didn't make him fearless, it made him functional. In combat, he starts moving with sudden bursts of intent. Blue energy slashes ripping through enemies, bodies flying back under impact. Cossack watches in alarm. Joo Hyuk is using advanced movement too early, too boldly. Red magical spears storm in. Joo Hyuk raises his shield. The impacts are heavy enough to make sweat break across his skin. Without the barrier and defenses, he'd already be dying. Cossack gets pushed back, calls for help. The fight stops being manageable and becomes a scramble where survival depends on movement and timing. They push toward a cliff, an objective point in the chaos. Joo Hyuk arrives and finds nothing. No obvious goal, just a cliff edge and more danger closing in. Goblin shamans launch a coordinated barrage of magical spears. Joo Hyuk stares at the incoming storm and breaks into the same helpless question he's carried since childhood. What do I do? The spears strike again and again, hammering his defenses. The barrier holds, but the pressure is so overwhelming he feels the edge of death anyway. He doesn't feel like a hero, he feels like a person one mistake away from being erased. Then Meatball appears like a wall dropped from the sky. His presence alone intimidates the goblins. He slams the ground, shatters their formation, and turns the team's momentum around with raw brute force. Joo Hyuk follows up with a sweeping blue slash that flings enemies back, then makes a decision mid-chaos he'll handle the shamans on the cliff himself. Not because he's brave, because if he doesn't, they'll keep killing from range. He surges up, forms a barrier, and strikes. When he stands on the cliff afterward, the goblins can only question whether the fight is already over. Brief, quiet. Then a loud crash tears through the moment. A new enemy emerges, long-legged, terrifyingly distinct. Hobgoblin. Cossack launches himself in with a roaring named attack. Meatball follows with his own battle cry. The battlefield becomes a storm of impacts, punches, blades, bodies bursting under power that doesn't care about ordinary limits. The chaos ends in cold system messages that don't reflect fear or exhaustion, only success. Mission complete, goblins defeated, hobgoblin defeated. Floor cleared. Level increased. Afterward, Cossack praises Joo Hyuk for taking down a boss mob. Joo Hyuk's own conclusion surfaces in the quiet. Maybe it really is smarter to leave the hardest parts to the strongest allies. He thanks his summons. Both reaffirm their loyalty. 20th floor cleared. S++ rank. Platinum badge. The outside world notices immediately. News broadcasts report the record. Live chat explodes with speculation. The nation argues about who this climber is and how far he'll go. Inside an office, officials discuss the public attention from a colder angle. It's getting too intense. Subordinates propose controlling the press, but the superior refuses. Instead, they move to something more invasive. Joo Hyuk's family. A file is presented. Father Bong Suchol, recovering from hip surgery. Plan, put him in the best rehab center, fully paid. Brother, Bong Min-hyuk, university freshman nearing enlistment. Plan, scholarship support. Mother, Hong, unemployed after confronting an abusive customer. The officials note she's the strongest force in the household. The dominant voice even her husband and sons don't dare oppose. She's the key. Support her, support the whole family. The decision is made. Support proceeds immediately. Back at Joo Hyuk's place, a massive delivery arrives. 12 tangsuyuk and 12 bowls of jjajangmyeon, plus a free service fried dumpling. Joo Hyuk, being Joo Hyuk, thinks the free dumpling is stingy and gets annoyed there are no coupons. Meatball reacts to jjajangmyeon like a starving child discovering heaven. He's never had it before. He drools, praises the smell, and devours it with noisy joy. While Meatball eats, Joo Hyuk opens his inventory. A new milestone notification. 20 platinum badges unlock a perk. A glowing golden box materializes. The system calls it a random box. 3 random items from a massive pool. Joo Hyuk's brain goes into optimization mode. Mana stones are routine. Herbs and metals are crafting materials he can't use yet. Weapons and armor exist at the shop. The truly dangerous items are the ones that mess with progression, level up runes that might inflate numbers without real strength. Tower jumping tickets that might skip rewards he depends on. The tower loves loopholes. Anything too convenient probably comes with hidden costs. One item jumps out, a multinational tower access ticket, a pass for entering towers in other countries. Another hits even harder. A grade confirmation summon ticket guaranteeing SR, SSR, or even LSSR rank. Joo Hyuk swallows, makes a ridiculous vow to the universe that he'll live virtuously if the tower gives him something good, and opens the box. First reward, 10 kilograms mana stone. His face goes flat. Mana stones are money, but they're also routine. The tower just handed him a bag of rice when he was praying for a house. Second reward, primordial thunder staff, an attack skill, the one thing he still personally lacks. Third reward, summon grade up rune. Joo Hyuk freezes. His entire mood flips. A rune that raises a summon's grade means raising the ceiling of the beings who keep him alive. It's not just power, it's insurance. The mana stone is whatever. The rune is the jackpot. The skill is the question mark. And because Joo Hyuk can't resist turning fear into planning, he immediately starts thinking about how to use them without triggering consequences. Then comes the dilemma. Who gets the summon grade up rune? Joo Hyuk has 2 reliable summons, Cossack at SR and Meatball at R, and both have carried him. Meatball is the wall that keeps him alive. Cossack is the blade that ends threats before they become disasters. Joo Hyuk tries to weigh it coldly, but he can't. Too much history sits on Cossack's side. Too many meals. Too many moments where Cossack was terrifying and still somehow there for him. Joo Hyuk leans toward Cossack. Still, he doesn't use the rune immediately. He judges that his current firepower is enough for now and decides to apply it later at the right moment. Even with a jackpot item in his hand, Joo Hyuk never trusts a good thing to stay good. Then he looks at Primordial Thunder Staff properly. The skill imbues a blunt weapon with lightning power, and more importantly, it's a growth-type skill with multiple forms. When the first form unlocks Soul-Chasing Thunderbolt, the knowledge doesn't arrive like a textbook. It slams directly into his brain like the tower poured technique into his nerves. Joo Hyuk flinches at how intimate and invasive the transfer feels, then realizes the upside. He doesn't need years of training. The tower forced understanding into him. He tests it, grabs his weapon, calls the technique by name, and lightning erupts with heavy convincing impact. The power is real. He feels it in the recoil in his hands, in the certainty that this isn't decorative magic. This is violence with structure. But when he tries it outside the tower, the effect doesn't fully manifest. The conclusion forms instantly. Like most player abilities, the true output belongs inside tower space. Joo Hyuk accepts it with grim relief. If skills like this worked freely in the real world, criminals like Choi Ho-sok would have turned the streets into slaughter long ago. The limitation is annoying, but it's also containment. When Cossack sees him swinging a mace around and learns about the new attack skill, a growth type at that, his reaction is immediate shock, almost comedic. Like the idea of Joo Hyuk becoming a real fighter upsets him more than any enemy ever has. That night turns noisy because food does what it always does in Joo Hyuk's life. It becomes a battlefield. Meatball eats the last bowl despite being warned. Someone screams at him to spit it out. Meatball refuses with warrior logic. A warrior does not spit. Joo Hyuk, exhausted, unsummons both of them and forces the chaos to end. The next day, Joo Hyuk sits alone and finally admits what Cossack has been afraid of all along. His summoning trait isn't just having help, It's a structure where the summons carry most of the combat power, meaning the summoner can survive without being the strongest person in the room, and because Ju Hyuk can summon even in reality, that advantage is grotesquely unfair. He doesn't need to fight, he could let the summons handle everything. And yet, the tower just handed him an attack skill, it's pushing him anyway. Then the story widens into something colder. Ju Hyuk learns through the same eerie system logic that forces knowledge into his head that there was another him, a parallel world. That alternate Ju Hyuk had the same summoning trait called Kosak earlier and was far stronger, and despite that strength he still died. His world was destroyed. Kosak's fear suddenly makes perfect sense. If even the stronger version failed, what does that say about this world's future? Ju Hyuk absorbs the horror, then does the most Ju Hyuk thing imaginable. He insists he's still human, insists he's only just started becoming a real man, and instead of retreating from the warning, he doubles down on his plan to keep climbing. Carefully, cowardly, alive, he summons Kozak and Meatball, expecting absolute obedience. But something is off. Meatball is shivering, looking unusually weak and cold, as if worry itself physically wore him down overnight. Ju Hyuk notices and feels a faint sting of guilt. The summons aren't just tools, they're beings dragged into his problems, altered by his fear, burdened by his decisions. Even with that discomfort, he can't stop. He needs to test his new power inside the tower. He invokes Summon Principle Article 3, like a ritual protection first, always, and forces the hierarchy into place. Kozak responds by grabbing him tight, physically controlling the plan. Meatball will protect at close range, Kozak will clear threats. Ju Hyuk will not be allowed to sprint toward death chasing his own pride. His summons have essentially conspired to keep him alive. Ju Hyuk begs for one exception. Just once, he wants to catch and kill a monster himself slowly, carefully to test the attack skill in real combat. Kosak refuses at first. Ju Hyuk swears he won't run out alone. Eventually, Kosak agrees under one condition. If danger rises even slightly, he intervenes immediately. Ju Hyuk seals the deal with a goofy salute that doesn't match the seriousness of what he's about to do. They enter the 21st floor. Rain and forest atmosphere. Ju Hyuk's mood tightens. Goblins are manageable. Orcs are a different tier, stronger, faster, and genuinely dangerous. Unfortunately, the mission doesn't care about his preferences. Defeat 30 forest orcs within 4 hours. Orcs emerge with axes and heavy bodies, moving with speed that immediately surprises him. Ju Hyuk realizes with a jolt that if Kosak and Meatball kill everything too fast, he won't even get the chance to test his skill. The irony being too well protected to practice makes him tense. So Ju Hyuk moves. He charges with Meatball, picks a target, and strikes. Soul-chasing thunderbolt, a heavy vertical blow. His mace crashes down with blue energy, sends an orc flying and bleeding. Ju Hyuk feels the impact in his arms and realizes with shock and satisfaction, the skill isn't weak, it's real, it makes him real. He doesn't stop at one. His mace comes down on another orc with a decisive fiery impact. Sparks burst outward. He follows with a finishing blow, purple energy spilling as the enemy collapses. Standing in the forested battlefield, looking down at defeated orcs, Ju Hyuk's confidence rises sharply. It had been too easy. That confidence doesn't last. Another orc charges with a large axe, then another. The fighting still isn't truly finished. Ju Hyuk and his allies exchange a tense, awkward look because the agreement was to catch only one, and yet more enemies and more fighting kept happening anyway. The system cuts through everything with cold certainty. 21st floor complete, S++ rank, platinum badge. The days continue, the clears continue. A desert orc on the 22nd floor, S++ clear. A cave orc on the 23rd, S++ clear. A volcano orc on the 24th noted as slightly difficult but same result. Ju Hyuk settles into a rhythm with Kosak and Meatball, 1 floor per day. Getting out of bed before the 25th floor, Ju Hyuk realizes something simple but heavy. He hasn't really given Kosak or Meatball anything since they joined him. If they're going to stand in front of blades for him, he needs to treat them like more than disposable weapons. He summons Kosak. The assassin salutes and declares loyalty with his usual intensity, then reacts with mild surprise that Ju Hyuk seems to be resting instead of charging straight back into the tower. Ju Hyuk hands him the summon grade up rune. Kosak turns it over uncertainly, asks if it's food. Ju Hyuk tells him to check it himself. Kosak examines it and freezes. Shock isn't subtle enough a word for what crosses his face. Before Ju Hyuk can second guess the gift, Kosak consumes the rune immediately. Ju Hyuk asks awkwardly but sincerely whether he liked it. Kosak's reaction overflows. He's overwhelmed, excited at the possibility of reaching SSR, moved by the fact that Ju Hyuk chose to give him something this valuable. He promises renewed intensity in protecting Ju Hyuk. Our guy watching Kosak's happiness feels unexpectedly good about it. Kosak wants to know if the upgrade starts immediately. Ju Hyuk says they'll do it later, more safely. He invites Kosak to stay and hang out. They decide to watch TV together. Sitting on the floor, they bicker about reruns. One complains it's a waste of money. The other insists on watching live. Then Ju Hyuk panics. He urgently tells Kosak to stop changing channels and go back. On the screen is a protest scene, and Ju Hyuk recognizes the woman holding a sign instantly. His mother, Hong, protesting unfair contract termination, standing alone in front of a towering corporate building. The broadcast shows her story. After being terminated, she was still ordered to do humiliating tasks like sorting recycling. The company demanded she apologize to a customer even when she wasn't at fault. When she refused, they shoved a termination notice at her. 10 days of solo protest. Nothing but ridicule from executives. Her anger hardened into resolve. If they laughed again, she'd confront them head on. Watching it, Ju Hyuk is crushed by guilt. His mother had been protesting alone for over 10 days and her son hadn't been there. He can't understand how she got help from Park and Kim, a law firm that should be far beyond what they could afford. Back at the protest site, an attorney named Lee Chang-sok from Park and Kim approaches Hong Yu. Her suspicion is instant. If a law firm shows up, someone is trying to sue her. Attorney Lee calms her and reveals the truth. He's there to sue the company on her behalf, for free. An annual project to support socially disadvantaged clients. He references her petition to the labor office to prove he's done his research. Hong hesitates, wrestles with suspicion, then accepts. Attorney Lee encourages her to treat it as luck and promises to stake the firm's honor on winning. Media work begins. Reporters swarm, cameras flash. The protest, that was solitary and ignored, becomes a public event. Ju Hyuk considers sending lawyer fees, estimates his mana stones at around 10 million won, even considers selling his energy barrier kit. Then his father calls. The lawyer fees are free, the social support project covers it. His father tells him not to worry and focus on his work. Then drops something else. Il-seong Hospital called. They're starting a hip joint surgery rehabilitation project, and his father has been selected. Treatment and hospitalization free. While Ju Hyuk is still processing that, Min Hyuk calls. He's seen their mother's interview. The conversation turns practical. Min Hyuk says he received a national scholarship from the Awakening Management Department. Tuition and even a laptop covered. The lawyer, the hospital, the scholarship. Ju Hyuk connects the dots with cold clarity. None of this is luck. It's coordinated support from the Awakening Management Department. Every piece of his family's burden, his mother's lawsuit, his father's treatment, his brother's education, has been quietly handled behind the scenes. Ju Hyuk calls team leader John and requests a quiet meeting. Over a meal, he lists the family actions plainly and asks why he wasn't consulted. He points out that this level of special care belongs to elite team members, not a general contract player. The tension spikes. A man in a suit slams his hand on the table hard enough to startle Ju Hyuk. Then the truth appears in writing. A document titled Ultra Elite Contract Special Management Subject. Ju Hyuk was already being treated as a special elite case. An official offers to sign him into the elite team contract right now. Ju Hyuk jolts with nervous surprise, tries to shrink away, says he's still not confident his talent isn't that great. The man stands up and challenges him. How can he say that after setting an unprecedented record? Ju Hyuk is left speechless. Internally, he acknowledges the truth. With 24 consecutive S++ clears, denying his talent just sounds like fake modesty. A suited official bows deeply and invokes the gunpoint robbery as proof that Ju Hyuk needs protection and qualifies beyond question. The core benefit, VIP level close protection. Ju Hyuk's resistance surfaces immediately. He hates being watched, and filming his clears could expose Kosak and Meatball. The answer comes fast. Filming and security can be handled flexibly, entirely according to his wishes. He can live alone in a secure place, receive protection only when he goes outside, and bodyguards can be assigned to his family too. Ju Hyuk visibly struggles with temptation. Then the offer escalates. 2 houses upon signing, one for Ju Hyuk, one for his family. His emotions surge so hard he feels overwhelmed. He starts signing. But at the last moment, Ju Hyuk stops, asks to pause. The official, startled because they're nearly done, demands why. Ju Hyuk says he wants advice first. The official agrees to wait. He summons Kosak in upgraded form. An explosive flash. The light is so bright it hurts. John Kosak declares his upgrade completion, poses confidently, and Ju Hyuk asks him to turn down the brightness. Kosak teases him about calling R Meatball next. Ju Hyuk explains the situation the elite team offer, the benefits, the obligations. Kosak's answer is immediate and firm. Join. Ju Hyuk is a player at national power level and deserves proper treatment. When Ju Hyuk worries that elite duties mean much higher floors, Kosak reassures him it's absolutely possible and promises to train harder. Kosak then expands the worldview. There are many legendary SSR summons. As long as Summoner Bong stays safe, he can eventually summon them all. Those beings will obey absolutely unless it violates the third principle. There are even demigod-level beings beyond humans. Ju Hyuk, sweating in shock, asks if he can summon such unranked existences now. Not yet, but he will as his ability grows. The practical instruction is devastatingly simple. Ju Hyuk's ultimate move is to live a long time and keep doing random summons. With a monthly cooldown, that's roughly 12 per year. Maybe more with lucky items. Then comes a warning about politics. People will try to control him. So he must set one firm condition. Only Ju Hyuk decides which uncleared floors to climb. Otherwise, outside pressure builds until he's forced forward against his will. State support is good, but only if Ju Hyuk keeps his independence. Kosak delivers this with emotional weight, like he's reliving the pain of watching a previous summoner lose exactly that. Meatball is summoned next. He arrives, pledging absolute obedience, and Ju Hyuk greets him as Meatball. Meatball replies seriously that a warrior doesn't greet just anyone. Kosak immediately boasts about his new SSR rank. Meatball reacts with surprise. The two fall into a rank argument, Kosak mocking Meatball's lower grade, pressing him for avoiding eye contact. Meatball insists warriors only look forward but is clearly intimidated. Seeing Meatball's pitiful state, Ju Hyuk decides that next time, the grade up rune goes to Meatball. Then they enter the 25th floor. Mission: defeat 100 orcs of any type and 1 orc great chieftain within 10 hours. Orcs charge immediately. Ju Hyuk takes tactical control. Meatball goes first to draw aggro. The barbarian lands, slams the ground with a massive shockwave, and flings orcs into the air. Ju Hyuk orders Kosak to launch. The newly upgraded SSR assassin dashes forward with a blue aura, and a high-speed blast tears past Ju Hyuk so violently he compares it to a fighter jet. Kosak initiates a barrage of blue energy blades that pierce multiple orcs simultaneously. Ju Hyuk uses blade explosion, repeated blue detonations with wide area effect. So powerful, he mentally compares it to a bazooka. A new figure appears with a playful surprise and activates Despicable Ambush. Multiple orcs are cut down in rapid strikes. Fear spreads through the remaining enemies. They begin sweating and trembling. Poison Dagger follows. They're just getting started. Ju Hyuk activates Shadow Step, blinks into position in front of a group of orcs, startles them with his sudden appearance and poised weapon. In the brief breath between attacks, Kosak's doctrine returns one more time. The summoner's safety is the true source of power. It's enough for Summoner Bong to live a long life. Ju Hyuk grips his crackling weapon and hardens his resolve. He'll grow up fast, so the people who worry about him can finally feel at ease. He charges an orc directly instead of hanging back. The orc reacts in visible surprise. Mid-attack, a thought crystallizes. He cannot rely on John Kosak forever. He has to become stronger with his own hands. An orc counterattacks with a sword. Ju Hyuk evades and answers with a quick kick that disarms the weapon. His follow-up strike sends the enemy flying. His body is far stronger, faster, and more reliable than it used to be. He raises his weapon and activates Primordial Thunder Staff, first form. Lightning gathers. Soul-chasing thunderbolt strikes directly on an orc's head, splitting skin and spraying purple blood. The force cracks into the enemy's skull, not just a hit, a clean demonstration that his thunder skill is lethal in real combat. More orcs rush him. Ju Hyuk activates Shadow Step, disappearing and reappearing in a blur. He strikes an orc in the face with thunder-charged force, grabs another and slams it down hard enough to shake the ground. He's no longer just surviving exchanges. He's dictating them. In the middle of that momentum, his eye flares with power. A new upgrade triggers: Primordial Thunder Staff, second form. The knowledge of scattered falling thunder arrives instantly. He activates it. A glowing golden ring forms around his weapon as electric force crackles outward. Ju Hyuk leaps into the charging group and releases it. Golden lightning explodes in branching arcs, striking multiple orcs at once, blasting them back under a storm of thunder. An area of effect skill. The realization thrills him. His companion looks on in confusion, asks if the orcs used lightning, then gets interrupted when another thunder strike explodes nearby. The sheer scale shocks even the people around him. One of his companions scolds him for getting too excited and reminds him of the agreement: catch only one per floor. Ju Hyuk apologizes nervously. That apology irritates him the second it leaves his mouth. He questions why he keeps apologizing to summoned beings. And another thought rises in defiance. Outside the tower, he might still feel like a weakling. But inside the tower, inside here, he's strong. That pride pushes him toward recklessness. He dismisses the safety thought and calls for the orc great chieftain to come out so he can smash its head himself. He charges forward and the chieftain appears immediately, far faster than expected. The escalation is instant. The next moment nearly kills him. A huge purple energy strike crashes toward him. Ju Hyuk screams for Kosak. Kosak moves instantly, grabbing him and dashing clear before the attack lands. The rescue is so fast, Ju Hyuk can only realize belatedly that he should have listened. Kosak doesn't waste time on comfort. He orders Ju Hyuk to eliminate the chieftain while his summons step forward to protect him. They explicitly tell him to leave protection to them. The summoner staying alive comes first, always. The summons charge together. Lightning and purple energy explode in a combined attack. One gathers power for a heavier blow while the orc great chieftain charges energy into its own fists, veins and muscles glowing with dangerous force. The clash builds toward a direct collision. The chieftain notices the incoming leap too late. One of Ju Hyuk's heavy-hitting summons comes down from above with glowing fists and slams into the chieftain with a massive shockwave. The blow staggers it backward. Ju Hyuk seizes the opening himself. He activates Despicable Ambush, lunges in, and strikes by surprise. The attack shatters the enemy. System confirms, 25th floor mission complete, level up, rewards granted, platinum badge. Then the milestone notification, 25 platinum badges unlock a new long-term reward, an encore perk. The options, trait enhancement, skill copy, random item, summon grade enhancement. Ju-hyuk chooses trait enhancement. The update hits his status screen immediately. Simultaneous summon limit increases to 3. Counting himself, he can now operate as a 4-man party. He checks the cooldown on his next random summon. 18 days remaining. A silhouetted future teammate stays an unknown possibility for now. With the battle over and the perk chosen, Ju-hyuk shifts the mood completely. He turns to his summons and asks what they want to eat. Kozak suggests teriyaki. Ju-hyuk immediately reminds him he can't handle spicy food. Kozak insists he's no longer a spice wimp. Ju-hyuk clearly does not believe him. Several servings of teriyaki are laid out as a celebration for clearing the 25th floor. Meatball comments that it's not really spicy, just sweet, which shocks Kozak. Then Kozak himself takes a bite and reacts exactly as expected, coughing, struggling, visibly suffering. His attempt to prove he could handle spice collapses in real time. Meatball bluntly observes that Kozak looks like he's about to die and suggests summoning a replacement. Ju-hyuk calmly drinks water while Kozak weakly begs for some. Watching this ridiculous scene, Ju-hyuk reflects that after clearing the 25th floor, he's finally ready to tell his family how far he's come. He acts on it by buying expensive, high-quality beef and presenting it to his family. The purchase alone says everything about how much his life has changed. His mother is shocked at the cost and immediately asks about the receipt. His brother asks where the money came from. Ju-hyuk tries to calm them down. His father steps in gently, just appreciate it and enjoy the meal. The tension eases. They sit down together. His mother reminds them to eat fruit. In the warmth of the meal, Ju-hyuk reflects that his mother's lawsuit and his father's treatment seem to be going well. For a brief stretch, he feels relief. Then he says it. Ju-hyuk tells his family he has awakened and is actively participating as a player in the tower. The announcement lands in silence, but the family doesn't absorb it the way he expected. His father treats it almost like a joke, asks if he's suddenly making game references. His mother tells him to just eat fruit. Confusion and light humor instead of full belief. The family moment stays strangely normal despite the scale of what he just revealed. After that, Ju-hyuk makes a phone call and introduces himself to team leader John, continuing the quiet coordination that's been building. The next day, the setting shifts to a bright city scene. Outside near a limousine, several men discuss Ju-hyuk's awakening and explicitly call him a precious national talent and an elite player. They note he's waiting upstairs. A black Gardier card opens a secured door, granting access to an upscale space. Then the destination becomes clear. Ju-hyuk is showing his family into a spacious, bright apartment and telling them they'll live here from now on. The family reacts with surprise, awe, and uncertainty as they explore the new place. Bong Ju-hyuk, the kid who ate ramen alone in a 180-square-foot rooftop room, who borrowed from loan sharks to pay for surgery and tuition, who couldn't walk past construction without crossing the street. That kid just moved his family into a real home. If you enjoyed the story so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Yume Recap, and stay tuned for the next video.